So, yeah, regarding the before the draft land, let's just review this pearl of an article. It's really good. I really enjoyed reading it. I actually got to know it from a different article from LSV that I read this morning. But it was on CFB Pro, so I won't ever be reviewing that kind of paid content in this chat, at least until Channel Fireball permits. But yeah, so the title of this article is Rule of Law: Be Emotional, Be Results Oriented, by Matt Sperling. And as you see, this article is quite older than the ones that we've been looking at previously. So this article is really about it really nails to the point that Magic is a complex game. Yes, you should be analytical, but you should also trust your gut. If you don't use your instincts, and if you don't work them, if you don't hone your instincts, it will be really hard for you to grow as a player. Okay? So he essentially the author divides this into two sections. So first he focuses on being emotional and being and employing intuitive reasoning into the decisions. And he actually starts by something that is quite funny, and probably you see these kind of things happening elsewhere in your life, like let's imagine you draw your hand and to start a game of Magic, and you feel like it's a decent hand, right? But you feel it, right? Okay, cool hand, and then you start reasoning, or start rationalizing over what it is. So you might end up thinking, oh, why the hell am I actually thinking about keeping this hand? It might not make any sense. Something that you will see touched on later is really, maybe you should your rational brain, if you feel something like that, your rational brain should not question it and say that, okay, that doesn't make sense, that was just a first impression, that doesn't make sense. You should likely try to question, okay, why did my intuition say this hand is good, while my reasoning, and by reasoning from first principles, it doesn't really look like it. Most likely than not, it's your experience, your accumulated experience surfacing, right? And it's really interesting that even LSV was presenting an example in the other article. It was like, I was in a game that I got from out of the blue. I got the feeling that my opponent was preparing a board wipe, and it was like, whoa, why? The opponent is committing creatures to the board, is not doing anything. But it's like the accumulation of experience. It enables you it owns your intuition to a point that you can really start trusting it, and yeah, use it as a tool, not against you. So yeah, this article, what we're talking about here, what you're talking about here in terms of emotional, intuitive, reasoning, and so on, it's also known as logic versus emotion, conscious versus subconscious, reasoning versus intuition. So all of these things, if you know the book, because it's so widely known, the book Thinking Fast and Slow, by I forgot the name of the authors, but Amos Tversky, in collaboration with someone else. So either way, that book is awesome, by the way. If you haven't read it, it's so good, because one, it gives you an intuitive sense on how this works, and how can you... Daniel Kahneman, thank you, GeForce, exactly. Daniel Kahneman, who is the author who actually worked a lot of time with Amos Tversky, and Amos died shortly before the book was published, and they won the Nobel Prize for Economics. So still, the why did they won the Nobel Prize for Economics? Because they revolutionized the way economics are done, essentially. The previous to that, the economics was centered around the idea of the perfect rational human who does everything, who is not risk averse, who weights every single option, even if there are 10,000 options. The rational human evaluates all of them and takes the best option. And they simply say, okay, it doesn't work like that, guys. Economics are the world economy is driven by completely different stuff. And they present a series of not only heuristics but also bias that humans have. And one of the most important things to improve in whatever is recognize where you're lacking. About economics, no, I studied actually software engineering, but I always loved like economics because of complex systems and all of that. I find it really interesting, and it's like studying psychology, applied psychology in a way, at least according to the view of Daniel Kahneman, for example. But yeah, still they revolutionized the whole view, and it's really useful because it touch bases on this. Think you have the brain that thinks fast and the brain that thinks slow, and if you know when to use the brain that thinks fast, and vice versa for the brain that thinks that is. And his name is John C. Jesus. Thank you, Midgeworth. So yeah, it's really useful if you know when to apply one or the other, and we'll see instances where that happens here applied to Magic. GeForce, answering your question, yeah, I studied on Faculty of Engineering of Porto University, and yeah, actually, you probably know the course, but it's really interesting because it's quite diverse. Even though we actually interrupt spell ever, yeah, for sure. And I got to understand. I got a diverse set of skills, which is really interesting. But yeah, either way, I'm digressing. Still, that book is great, and it touches on a lot of stuff that this article also touches on. So regarding this section that focuses on the emotional aspect of it, it's frequent. One thing that is common to discuss on MTG articles is really the costs. Is you should play like a robot, or you should try to analyze every single thing and play according to the evidence and all of that. But it's much less frequently discussed. What are the costs of playing like that? What are the costs of not trusting your gut? And several people talk about this. Ben Stark, for example, in his stream, he mentions a lot this thing about not employing effort. Oh, nice, Partiziki. That's really cool. So yeah, he talks a lot about deciding where to employ his mental energy, because he treats it as a finite resource that he needs to manage, and it's really hard to manage something like that during a 2 days or 3 days tournament, right? It can be quite challenging. So yeah, and he presents two reasons to consider it. One is we have limited attentional capacity, so we cannot dedicate attention to many things at a time, and actually our brain is wired in such a way that we are good at monotasking. If we're multitasking, we're not focusing on all of those tasks. What we're doing is switching up rapidly, and that actually degrades our focus. It's a real downside of that. So yeah, we cannot think logical about everything that's going on in a complex game like Magic. And two, emotions can fill the gap of our attentional capacity by informing our decisions without the need for any conscious thought. What it's saying here essentially is, even though sometimes rationalizing and planning and setting up a plan is really useful, there are a lot of instances where you need to act fast, or you have way too many options in front of you that it's simply overwhelming and you cannot employ rational reasoning over it to end up in a final solution. That is. So yeah, a good player is someone who plays enough that will likely either feel confident or anxious towards trading a 3 damage to the opponent, depending on the situation. So this was a specific example that he was highlighting, and it's like a good player develops this emotional response. And why do we develop this emotional response? Because if we care about winning in Magic, it's like our brain in weird and contrived ways tries to put every circumstance in place so that your chances of attaining your objective are maximized. And one of the great tools that your brain has available are emotions. So managing emotions, so emotions actually can gear you towards positive things and gear you away of negative things. That's a real useful thing that emotions do for us, right? We take our hand out of a hot plate, or if we see sugar, generally speaking, we run towards it, right? So yeah, having your intuitions is really useful. And I actually have here the note. Another example is watching Partiziki sideboarding. So it's like there's a lot of intuition going behind it, and for me, personally, and probably as you saw by the previous game, I am still challenged a lot by those kind of things, and being present a completely new scenario. Even though I was playing rogues, it was a different deck, and the knowledge, a lot of the knowledge that I had was not transposing. But if you develop good foundations, as Partiziki has, and ERSA and several others, it really makes this you start having this emotional response against several different situations that you might face. Another thing that we were just previously discussing is that logic may not help you either if you have encountered the similar situations enough times, or even to consider all the potential relevant cards. Again, if you're trying to plan something that you for in a situation that you are completely unfamiliarized, it's like crazy, right? What are you using to plan in that scenario, right? It's you don't have enough data, enough intuition built in, or enough a sample size big enough to take a strong decision in that scenario. Strong emotion preventing other emotions, from rational thinking. It's still useful it's very important to consider and to pay close attention to your emotions. Even though we're saying, okay, emotions can be useful, they can also do a lot of harm. For example, a lot of people get frustrated with runs, bad luck runs, right? Like I lost 5 games in a row. That can get me down, right? But understanding your emotions and actually using your rational brain on top of your fast thinking brain can be huge. And as we discussed previously, ways of developing your fast brain is like practice something every single day, at least for a bit, so that you sleep over it and it's committed to your intuition center, let's call it like that. So yeah, so in a this is also not a situation where you should go either 0 or 100. It's a gray zone, right? You shouldn't either be all emotional as some players are, and you shouldn't also shut off completely your emotions, right? Because then you're giving up on a lot, and you might end up tempted on not becoming emotionally invested in the game. But that's the thing that we're talking about. It can hinder your gameplay, because you'll be spending so much mental energy during every single of your minor decisions that you won't have mental capacity for the real difficult ones. Most of us have enough time. None of us, exactly what I was saying. So none of us have enough time or brain power to think about every decision with logical precision. For example, and I use here this example since I work a bit with machine learning. Magic is still out of bounds of machine learning as of now. The thing about games like chess is that you can, in principle, branch out all the decision tree to a point that you can predict. Okay, so the correct play 95% of the times or whatever is this play. And how this works, there's a simple algorithm in which you try, like, okay, I have 10 decisions in front of me, and out of these 10 decisions, what can your opponent do? Okay, he can do like 5 different things on each of them, and then and so on and so on. That is true. Magic is Turing complete, as there are some videos on YouTube that prove it. but it's really tiresome to demonstrate that. But yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's still out of grasp. Even though Go has been tackled successfully by the AlphaGo team. So it's getting closer, guys. It's getting closer, but still, there's a lot. It's really complex. The fact that it is. Hey, thank you, Prom Gamer. Thank you for the follow, man. Thank you. How are you? Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, the thing about the magic market is it's still not as efficient as possible, and the issue, at least right now, the issue is a lot of people are at home. But yeah, definitely, as you have more players invested in the game, yeah, if the demand and the supply are good enough, you can start using essentially magic cards as currency to buy your breakfast or something. Just like Bitcoin, in some ways it is. The only issue right in this aspect is that we have an unregulated company driving the supply and in ways the demand of the currency. So it's really tricky. If sometimes we might not trust banks with our money, trusting an unregulated company with it's even harder to rationalize on. So yeah, back to the article, I guess. Complexity. The complexity of Magic, as we were saying about all of these things, it eliminates the logic of I'll play this whole game rationally and logically, planning every single move that I do and all of that. It's so hard. Whoa, that's something that I didn't know about. Damn. There's some trivia for you guys on chat. There's some trivia. Thank you, GeForce, for sharing. So yeah, regarding the rest, versus that option, and what the other two things that will most likely change how I yeah, and finally, it's one of the important things is to rationalize. I say this multiple times, but it's rationalize over what you feel, and practice recognizing the exceptions to the paths that you felt were correct. Right? You should always pay close attention to where your intuition fails you. Okay. For example, and I sent a tweet earlier today regarding this. It's like, this is all fine and good, but the human brain actually, we are constantly rationalizing over things post factum. So I might take a decision intuitively, like mix some spices on my food or something like that, and then like to put too much hot pepper on my food, and then without noticing it, and then I was thinking, oh, I really wanted a spicy food, but it doesn't really. We cannot always trust our rational thinking after our intuition has taken hold of our actions. So it's really contrived. I won't bother you with more of that, but let's move on. But it's just something to keep in mind. We also need to pay attention to the times that that our rational justification for an intuitive action was not really, that did not make that much sense. we need to keep true to ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say, I guess. So the value of being results oriented. This is something really useful here too. So where the results is only one of many possible outcomes of a decision, don't focus on the results or use the results to justify the decision. This is just a common argument that is thrown around. It's like, yeah, you mulligan because you were afraid of that you wouldn't throw your third land or something that you really needed. Yeah, but and you don't draw that land. You actually don't mulligan and you don't draw that land. So see, I should have mulligan. Maybe not. One needs to keep in mind what was the likelihood of me drawing that third land, and because one single game doesn't dictate a causal relationship. Magic is a game of chance, of variance, and we need to take that into consideration, right? So yeah, this would be a poor strategy. This is being results oriented purely is definitely a poor strategy in absence of reliable evidence. So multiple instances or from first principles you can derive that the logic for some decision is sound. So reliable evidence of a specific causal connection between decision and results, and that's yeah, or the shuffler is broken. But I guess it actually is, if I'm not mistaken, or there's something the random algorithm used behind it. It doesn't really make that much sense. But one specific thing that we should keep in mind is this causal connection portion of it. So it's not correlation. We should not mix correlation with causation. If I see that I'm for example, my opponent plays a troll king, and I always lose after they play that troll king. Yeah, I cannot say that there's a causal connection from them playing a troll king and me losing. I probably should try to understand, okay, what steps are in between, and can I actually do something? So it's not causal, it's simply correlated. Maybe I'm not doing what I should, but still. Cause and effect, small sample versus the big picture. The most important thing here to note is you sometimes it might feel overwhelming. to know if a decision is correct or not, just because, oh, I would need to play so many games, so many games and get into this specific situation or close to it to know if this play is correct or wrong. Yeah, but you can get halfway by rationalizing over what the magic mechanics. So, for example, if a mechanic from a given set incentivizes you to attack, maybe you should. For example, if a set is full of combat tricks in the form of pump spells, yeah, probably that set is a more aggro inclined set. So you should keep those things in mind. So yeah, your objective is essentially to focus, to narrow down your logic, your rational thinking towards the paths of the decision tree that are actually viable. But how do you prune the rest of the tree? You prune it via your intuition, right? Typically, your intuition or your logical thinking, which actually says, okay, holding for example, I might not play any lands during my first, second, third turn, even though I had lands in my turn. But you rule rule out that option completely because your logic brain, let's say, says, okay, yeah, they're hypnotizing, right? You're saying that was my old plan. Hypnotize my viewership so they stick around. That was my plan in Twitch. Damn you, you found it. So yeah, I was saying, yeah. So rule out parts of the tree. For example, not playing your lands while you have lands on your hand. That doesn't make sense, right? You should start building your board, having more. Yeah, they're not in sync on purpose. If you notice, some of them are going to the center and the others are typically going out or something. But yeah, probably I should fix that. So yeah, again, prune out your decision tree via intuition and what logically makes sense. Okay. Yes, representativeness of the sample is what is important. That again, this goes towards saying that you shouldn't actually just focus on getting a large sample size and only be able to take a decision after you get that large sample size, but actually think how representative that small sample size is. That is, if that situation doesn't involve a lot of variance, if there's not a lot that could be done to add variance to that situation, it's probably representative, and you can use the outcome of that situation for future decision making. And finally, the main thing that the author suggests, it's really to practice, but not practice for the sake of practicing, just like in autopilot mode while watching a show on Netflix. It's really about having this goal in mind and extracting this knowledge out of the game as you play, right? And that's actually the whole purpose of deliberate practice. That's actually the whole purpose of me for me to be streaming and to be sharing my content with you guys. So it's all about small incremental steps consistently employed, and about analyzing your actions, analyzing what you did in order to try to build your intuition to the best stage as possible. And afterward, and improve your. Thank you, Mitch. And improve your and own your logic to be used on top of that. I truly hope that you learned something from the article today, because I sure did. So if you want to find the link for it, it is in the About section just below the video. If you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure to leave a like, to subscribe to the channel, and hit that bell icon so you know when the next one comes up. Also, Let me know in the comment section down below what are you working on or what do you want to work on to take your game to the next level. I also stream on Twitch, so if you want to interact with me live, head over to twitch.tv/DiogoJapinto. We're building a truly awesome community in there, and we would love to have you around. Thank you for joining, and see you next time. Planeswalking out!